All right, so I'm gonna open Photoshop and kind of navigate through the workspace. First thing you want to do usually when you open Photoshop is either open a file. So I have some files down here which I've opened before, or I can click New File, which would give me a blank workspace. So I'm going to click Open because most of you are going to be opening files. So I'm going to click Open, and you can go Open as from the top here. So Open and find what you want. And I'm going to open another one. So, or I could open another one. So what I want to show you is the workspace. So at the top here, we have a control panel, our control bar. So this is contextual. Depending on what tools we have selected, it'll change. So I'm going to start off by selecting my lasso tool to open up these. So any tool that has an arrow next to it, that is a tool that has more tools underneath it. So to see those tools, you can right click on it, or you can press and hold, and it'll also show you. So I'm going to click on my lasso, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm hitting Command plus to zoom in, or Control plus on a PC to zoom in, and I'm going to outline this to select it. All right. So this cool little menu shows up now, and if you have a newer version of Photoshop, it allows you to deselect, to select, and do other things, do adjustments. So I can click on my adjustments, and I have all my different adjustments underneath here. I can mask. So if I click mask, it'll add a mask to it. I can flip. Let's see, it says flip. Invert selection, yeah. So if I invert selection, now I mask it, it takes that spot out. So it's a very useful menu, and you can move it around if you want to put it where you want, or you can just leave it where it is. So that was my lasso tool, my polygon lasso. It works the same way, but it works point by point, so I have to click, and it gives me a little bit better selection for something that looks rectangular, and then I just double click when I get to the end, and it closes. So this allows me to do straight lines, which is very useful. We have our lasso tool. A lasso tool allows you to select one color. So I'm going to zoom out, Control minus or Command minus. I'm going to zoom out and select my one color. So there, it selected all the things that were that one color and what was close to that one color. That's based on the tolerance of the tool. So my tolerance is set to 32. If I take this to 5 and select it, it'll only select, oh, I didn't change it. So I take it to 5 and select, it'll only select the color that is right there. It won't select any other colors. But if I change this to 100 and select, it'll select a lot of things because it's now tolerating more colors. It's allowing more colors to be part of that selection. So depending on what you want, the standard is 32. Oops. The standard is 32. And that's where they have it usually set. And that selects the similar colors, but it selects the main color that you selected. All right, so I'm gonna open this up because it has more tools under it. So I'm gonna right click, go to quick selection. Quick selection works by allowing you to select something of same color, like colors. So it doesn't have to be the same color, but it allows you to select as you drag. So the way that you use the tool is you start in the middle and you drag your way to the outside, and allows you to select up until it changes into a different color. All right, so it selects lines of contrast. So when it gets to something that's highly contrasting, it'll stop. And then it allows you to add to that selection as you drag. All right, so again, if I want to mask it, I can come down here, click mask, right? I can come over to my layers panels, which we haven't talked about the panels yet, but these are all your different panels. At the bottom of my layers panel is my mask button. I can do it from there. Or I can go up to my menu, click layer mask, and then reveal selection, hide selection. I can do the same. All right, so that's my quick selection. And then finally we have the object selection under there. So object selection is you draw a box around what you want selected, and it selects it for you. If you want to do more than one thing at a time, you hold down your shift key and select again, and it'll add to the selection that you had. And then again here I'm going to deselect that so it's not there. All right, so what other tools do we have that are useful? We have our clone stamp. Clone stamp allows us to select an area and clone it into another area. So I'm going to hold down my Option key or my Alt key, I think, on a on a PC. And what I'm going to do is I click, once I hold down my Option key, I click, it gives me a target, and now it allows me to clone from where I was. If I were to make my brush bigger, so I'm making my brush bigger by hitting the right and left brackets, which are next to your P and your / key on your keyboard. Making the left bracket makes it smaller, the right bracket makes it bigger. Or I can come up here to my size, change the size of my brush by dragging. So a really big brush, really small brush. All right, so that's also how you do it. So this will allow you, once we start painting. So as I paint, if you look on the screen, there's a little X, that little hash mark or crosshair that shows me where I'm painting from. So if wherever that is, that's where I'm painting from. All right, so the next thing we have that you might be using is your spot healing. Really good for blemishes and other things, or fixing things that you need to clean up a little bit. So to get to that, I'm gonna right click on the 3 dots at the bottom, and I have a lot of tools in here, but there's my spot healing brush, my patch tool is a good one, and my red eye tool. So all 3 of those are in there. So spot healing, let's get rid of this up here. So you draw your mark and then try to get rid of things. What it does is, how it works is it takes what's around your, let's go back to, revert back to our original design. So what it does is it takes what's around your selection, and it blends in the pictures that are around your brush into the pixels that are in your brush. So I'm going to make this smaller and get rid of this black area right here. So I'm going to do like this and gradually get rid of it. So really good for blemishes and other things. Some people can get a little crazy with this, but very useful tool. And I suggest playing around with it, most likely, like I said, on blemishes and scars and clouds and foliage, excuse me. When you're working in like the plants and stuff, it's good for getting rid of lines and step and repeat from when you did your clone stamp. All right, so that's your spot healing. The red eye tool, there's a tutorial for that, but again, you right click on the 3 dots and your red eye tool's down here, allows you to use your red eye tool. So that's your toolbar. Down here are your colors. You can flip your colors by clicking on the arrow, the double arrow. You can go to black and white. You can change your colors by double clicking, selecting with the circle, and then you can drag your slider up to change it to other values, and then click OK. So that's how you get your colors. Foreground color, background color. The one in back is the background, the one in the front is the foreground. Let's see here. So your paintbrush, you're probably not going to be using that much, but you know, just it's there if you need it. And your text tool. So text tool, let's change it to a color we can see, since we're change your fonts over here. A good place to use to change all this stuff is in your properties panel. So the properties panel is contextual. It changes based on what you have selected. So I'm going to go here to brain melt right here, and then I'm going to click on this TT. This is a really cool feature of Photoshop. It allows you to click and drag to change and adjust the size of things. All right, so I made that larger, and then when I'm done, I click check mark, and then I have my text. I can add different things to this text. If I come down here to my layers panel, where all my layers are showing up, so this layer is on top of the other one, so my background, my text, and you can see the layers change based on what you have. So this T stands for text. This picture is a thumbnail for what's on the layer. It's a picture of what's on the layer. So let's add something to this text. I can click on FX. I can add drop shadows. So let's add a drop shadow, adjust these so that, and make it darker. So you can see the purple drop shadow behind the letters. And you can turn those effects on or off in your layers panel by clicking on the eyes. You can turn the layers on and off by clicking on the eyes. All right, it shows what type of thing I added to an FX to the layer, but you can also do other things. So let's go here, let's adjust. I'm gonna drag a circle, an ellipse around this right here, click on my background layer, and now I'm gonna use my adjustment layers. So my adjustment layers are right there, or I can come down here to these adjustments right here. It's the same thing. I call this the cookie. You can click on the cookie to adjust different things. So I'm gonna adjust the curves, make it darker and more vibrant. That's an adjustment layer, and you can see that layer show up right here. I can turn it on or off in my layers panel. I can even set it to be specific to that layer. So let's say I drag it to the top here, I drag my layer up and let go when I see the blue lines. And if I just wanted to apply just to the text layer, let's move it. So I'm gonna move this so it's right on the text layer, So if I just wanted to apply just to the text layer, I click my Option key or my Alt key and apply